As per usual, this was a rather busy week for game news. Let's get started. Last week, I got to attend Indiecade East 2015. In case you don't know what Indiecade is, it's a festival of independent gaming put on each year. There's a show on the West Coast and a show on the East Coast. Now, the show on the West Coast has been running for quite some time now, but Indiecade East is comparatively newer. This year was the third year, and it was held at the Museum of the Moving Image in Astoria, in Queens. I got to see a lot of cool stuff. You can check out my coverage at blackmanandrobin.com right now. One of the games that I saw that I enjoyed was called Helldivers. Now, Helldivers is a twin-stick shooter, and it's coming out on March 3rd, 2015, for the PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, and PlayStation Vita. Our first impressions of that are also up on blackmanandrobin.com right now. Now, while we're talking about PlayStation, it might break your heart to know that Sony has abandoned the trademark for The Last Guardian. After a long silence, it's become apparent that the game is still in development, actually. There's a good chance that the lapse in trademark is on account of the game possibly receiving a name change instead of the game being abandoned. Now, in case you don't know what The Last Guardian is, it's an upcoming action RPG. It's set in the same world as Shadow of the Colossus and Ico. Unfortunately, we have no idea when it's coming out. It was supposed to be coming out some years ago for the PlayStation 3. We've reached the PlayStation 4, and we still have no idea of what's going on with the game. All we know is that it's in development. However, it turns out, we know that there's going to be quite a post-mortem to the game once it's finished. I'm personally holding out hope for a David Attenborough-narrated documentary on the making of it, but I shouldn't hold my breath. On the subject of new developments in favorite franchises, apparently a new Rock Band game is in development. At least, we think it's a Rock Band game. We're not completely sure what it is that Harmonix has up their sleeve, but they are planning something very big for PAX East 2015. Considering that the Rock Band store just got the first new DLC in a good long time, there's a good likelihood that this is a return to the franchise. It's unsurprising that the Rock Band series has gone dark for so very long. Unfortunately, the genre of playing music games with plastic controllers kinda got milked to death. I mean, to death. Fortunately, in the few years since the oversaturation of the market, things have changed. Nowadays, it's a lot easier to sell downloadable content or DLC to people. Let's say your favorite band, the Diablo Swing Orchestra, would like to have their songs in Rock Band. Instead of having to go through the trouble of a full retail release, they could have their songs sold as DLC. That's not really a big deal. It's something we've been doing since the last generation of consoles. The thing is, I think the market has learned its lesson. Don't put out a Rock Band game for a single band. So maybe, if we want to see Rock Band Diablo Swing Orchestra Edition, instead of having to buy a whole new game, we can buy DLC that not only adds their songs, but their likeness. In the realm of game deals, the humble Square Enix bundle has been released. This bundle on the $1 tier includes Hitman Absolution, Supreme Commander 2, and Hitman Go. If you beat the average price paid, you'll receive Thief, that is, the new Thief game that was released, Murdered, Sole Suspect, Deus Ex, Human Revolution, Director's Cut, and the Kane and Lynch Collection, which was tacked on Friday. In case you're wondering, the Kane and Lynch Collection includes Kane and Lynch, Dead Men, Kane and Lynch 2, Dog Days, The Doggy Bag, the Alliance Weapons Pack, and the Multiplayer Masks Pack. There's plenty of DLC in there. If you're willing to drop a whole $15, you'll get the freshly rebooted Tomb Raider, as well as Sleeping Dogs. There's quite a bit of variety in this bundle. Hitman Go is Android only. It's more of a puzzle game than the rest of the Hitman series. Supreme Commander 2, on the other hand, is an RTS with giant robots. I don't think I have to say much else to sell you on that one. On the whole, it looks like a pretty decent bundle, but personally I'm going to hold off until next week before I put my money down. Both Sleeping Dogs and the rebooted Tomb Raider tend to go on sale for pretty cheap, and I'm not particularly interested in the Hitman games. If next week's editions don't excite me, I'll probably wind up dropping $1 on this one just for the sake of getting Supreme Commander 2. Now, in the ever-growing world of PC gaming, we have a lot of news this week. To start with, Robot Roller Derby Disco Dodgeball has left Early Access. In case you've not heard of Robot Roller Derby Disco Dodgeball, it's a very unusual sort of multiplayer FPS in which you play as a robot, roller skating around at high speed in a disco, and you're throwing dodgeballs at other robots. It's as fun and as absurd as it sounds. Our review of Robot Roller Derby Disco Dodgeball is currently live on blackmanandrobin.com. If you're looking for an unusual FPS, you need to check this game out. If you are a fan of FTL, Faster Than Light, you may be pleased to know that Distant Star Revenant Fleet is now in beta. In Distant Star Revenant Fleet, instead of commanding individuals within a ship as you would in FTL, you command a fleet of ships as you dash around the galaxy. Now that the game's in beta, all story content is currently available, along with the final battle, and, most importantly, the save feature. In addition, we have some very good news. We currently have a few copies of Distant Star Revenant Fleet. Wait, did I say a few copies? I meant to say quite a few copies. We have, in fact, a lot of copies of Distant Star Revenant Fleet, and we're going to be giving them away. Now, we're holding multiple giveaways for these, since we have quite a few keys. Our first giveaway is on this video, and if you'd like to enter, all you have to do is follow Blackman and Robin on Twitter, and send us a tweet telling us what you would name your starship, if you have one. Now, if you're not a particularly creative person, don't worry, we'll still accommodate you. We're also giving away keys on our site, blackmanandrobin.com, where in addition to a main giveaway that ends in a week or two, we'll also be giving away keys via our year-long giveaway. In case you don't know what our year-long giveaway is, every year we have this pot full of game keys. It continues to grow as developers keep sending us more and more keys to give away. Now, if you're one of our readers, all you have to do is head to the page for the 365-day giveaway on blackmanandrobin.com, enter, and you'll be in the running for one of those keys at the end of the year. Have you ever wanted to fight like back in the olden days? And when I say like back in the olden days, I don't mean back during World War I. I'm sorry, but mustard gas, tanks, 20th century warfare is so tame. No, what you really want is 2nd century warfare. Okay, maybe a little too far back? Okay, well, let's go to the days of siege weaponry. Medieval Engineers from Keen Software House has just been released on Steam Early Access. Unlike their previous game, Space Engineers, Medieval Engineers takes place, well, on the ground, in medieval times. It's a game in which you get to build real working medieval machinery. If you want to build a catapult to knock over your neighbor's castle, you can do it. Incidentally, it's not the only medieval-themed game to come out recently on Steam. There's also Besiege, yet another game in which you build medieval war machines. I've played quite a bit of it, and even though it's in very early access, I can definitely recommend it. Check out my first impressions video for more info. Now, if you're more of a big-picture kind of guy, you might be pleased to know that Total War Attila is finally out on Steam. The game, which is currently available for Mac and PC, has opened to very good critical reception, and fans seem to love it as well. If you've ever really wanted to conquer, if you've ever really wanted to show your enemies the true meaning of fear, you might have a good time with Total War Attila. Now, if you're a fan of To the Moon, you'll want to check out the latest To the Moon minisode that has been released. It's not the long-awaited sequel, and it's not nearly as long as the short game that was released a few months earlier, A Bird Story. Nonetheless, it's definitely worth checking out if you're a fan of games. You can get it free right now at freebirdgames.com. On the subject of games you can't play right now, a fresh gameplay video for Worlds Adrift has just surfaced. Now, in case you've not heard of Worlds Adrift, it's an open-world game in which you and your friends can travel around a fantasy world in an airship of your own design. It's a multiplayer game that boasts persistent worlds. It seems like an MMO, but it's not like any other MMO that's been released before. In a blog post, the developers boasted that there won't be any NPCs that just stand around waiting to give out quests. They aim for much of the game's fun to be procedural. While my first thoughts are this is a Minecraft MMO with airships, my second thoughts are this looks a bit like Journey. There definitely are some story elements to the world. However, it also seems that some aspects of the narrative are going to unfold in the same way that stories unfold when you play Minecraft. The stories weren't put there by the developers, Rather, they're the stories that you tell of that great time I ran into a cave and there were all these spiders hiding there, and then my friend got poisoned and I had to feed him an apple so he wouldn't die. Those sorts of stories. Whatever the case, I'm really looking forward to Worlds Adrift and can't wait to see more of it. This week, a teaser trailer for Terraria Otherworld was released. Terraria Otherworld is not a sequel to Terraria so much as a spin-off. It's story-focused and it's set in an alternate dimension in which players must defeat some sort of evil that has overrun the world. There's not very much information about it available, other than that it's coming to Mac and PC sometime soon. We do have a rather interesting bit of news. Sega Networks has purchased Demiurge Studios. Now, in case you've not heard of Demiurge Studios, they're the folks behind Marvel Puzzle Quest. Now, Sega has recently restructured. They've laid off a lot of people, and they're trying to focus more on PC and mobile games. This is following up on the heels of some rather disastrous launches, including Sonic Boom.
Help! I got you! I'm slipping! I've got you! I can't hold on much longer!
We're not going to talk about Sonic Boom today. Rather, we're going to talk about what made this an interesting move on Sega's part. While it might be disappointing for some of the folks who worked very hard on console releases for Sega to see that they're getting replaced by people who make mobile games, it's important to note that it's significantly cheaper to develop for mobile and PC than to develop for console. What Sega's doing is for the sake of their own survival. What might be good for Sega to do now is to focus on producing smaller to medium-sized games. Remember all the weird stuff that came out on Dreamcast? Stuff like Seaman and Space Channel 5? Sega should make a return to doing games like that. They can be strange games, they can be smaller games, but they should be creative games. Sega should take a few more risks these days now that they've slimmed down. If Sega can make a few risks work out monetarily, then they might be able to make a return to console. Of course, what I really want to see is a Dreamcast 2, but, well, I think I'm gonna have to keep dreaming for a while. The Kickstarter for Shadowrun Hong Kong is over. The game, which mashes up cyberpunk and fantasy, has made over $1.2 million. That's over 12 times their original goal. This isn't the first time a Shadowrun game has come to Kickstarter. A while back, we got Shadowrun Returns. Shadowrun Returns helped breathe new life into a rather old RPG franchise. We have a review of Shadowrun Returns up at blackmanandrobin.com if you're interested in the game. If it sounds up your alley, you'll definitely want to check out Shadowrun Hong Kong. Finally, I stumbled across a trailer for a game that looks absolutely gorgeous. It's called Vigil, and it's a first-person sci-fi thriller from Recluse Industries. Take a look.
I do not remember this place.
Don't worry. You are safe. But I need to run some tests on you.
Hello?
I saw somebody.
Hallucinations are common after awakening.
Sunday. Get ready for the high-flying, quick-dodging, mid-air catching, flame-throwing, disco-dancing, robot-exploding extravaganza. It's Robot Roller Derby Disco Dodgeball. Tear it up in a skate park arena from the future. Grab some dodgeballs and hit your friends in the
Oh, that's it for this week's game news. Be sure to follow at Blackman and Robin for all the latest reviews, previews, and interviews. And follow me at Jordan Cameron for my overviews.
Tickets on sale now.